What's up, everyone? This is Cheyenne B, and you are listening to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. So here's the real mystery. How do real, spiritual-based business owners like us grow a large following of our soulmate clients who are begging to pay us for our skills and gifts? How do we increase sales and make a contribution while also making a killer income? That is the blaring question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Cheyenne Burnett, and welcome to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. Hey you guys, welcome back to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. This week's interview is so good. I got to sit down with Alisha from Cosmic Gateway. So this episode's coming to you all the way from Australia, where we're going to chat with her about her purpose, her passion, and how she was able to expand all of it worldwide. And she's going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how she's generated over 10,000 Facebook followers and what she does on the daily to stay motivated and stay in line with her purpose, her passion, and making it all profitable. So I am so excited for you to tune in. Let me know what you think. The opportunity to get to know you a little bit, but for the people who don't know you, who are you, Miss Alisha, and what do you do, and where are you from, and how did you get involved in spiritual businesses?
Let's start off. I live in Melbourne, Australia. I was born here. What do? I do a lot of energy work. I help people align with their soul purpose to bring their gifts and talents into the world through energetical alignment. And I guess an offshoot of that now is that I help people to kind of, move into their spiritual business or practice.
Yeah.
That was just kind of a nice little complimentary thing that sprung out of nowhere. So,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. And what kind of modalities do you use?
Sure. It's a modality that doesn't really have an official title or name. It's kind of a freestyle of something that developed over 10 years or more for me. So, it's kind of, I studied my journey just in very brief. Before I finished school, I jumped into psychic development, and that dabbled a little bit in healing modalities. But, prior to that, I was the 8-year-old that walked around putting my hands on people and doing energy work. So my curiosity was there, and then I, found my first teacher, and then after 5 years, I decided I needed something a little different. I went into holistic counseling, so I studied that because I realized that I was more leaning towards wanting to help people with healing rather than do readings and the psychic stuff. So the funny thing I was working full-time in my corporate job because I had a whole lifetime of working in corporate. So I was an advertising executive while I was studying holistic counseling for a couple of years. So, yeah.
So what about it in that situation made you, because obviously, was it that you planned to transition into your spiritual business, or was it just more of a hobby at the time?
I was living in both worlds. I talk about this often because many people live in two worlds. Right. So I was working full time. When I left school, I just wanted to be in business. I felt that I had a natural flair for it. Growing up in an environment where my parents owned their own very successful business, and so I was there after school on weekends. That was kind of my playground, if you will. So when I was in high school, I realized that I had this business thing. I just got it, And so I was like, wow, I'm going to be an advertising executive or whatever. I don't know. I laugh about that now.
Right.
But so I pursued that. I went and studied business advertising, and it was very hard for me to break into the industry, and it was very frustrating. Yeah. And at the same time, I had my other world where I was doing professional readings and healings from about the age of 19. So I was like trying to balance both worlds. Yeah.
Yeah. So was that something, so 19 is fairly young. So you were still going to school when you started practicing your
Yeah.
spiritual skills. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Well, what was it in your life that made you decide to move away from your corporate job and into running your spiritual business full time? That's kind of a big
Um,
deal.
yeah, look, I think I definitely knew deep down that was the path for me, and I resisted that for a long time
Really?
because I guess the conditioning that we have is like it's easier to work for someone else rather than do something that's not really a paved way, or we're not really sure how it's going to unfold. And so I juggled that for like over a decade of delving in and out, and so I was kind of like, I was a bit restless because I'd go into corporate and then I'd go 3 months in and be like, I'm bored. And then I would delve into doing more like community-based work, more social work. So I kind of had both of that going on. And I guess it wasn't the right time. I probably needed to have a lot of experiences.
Right.
And the turning point for me, I joke about this because I say I got ripped out of the Matrix because it was the time. Oh, it was about 3 years ago, and I had just gone through a very big awakening, or like a Kundalini awakening.
Yeah.
And I was looking at starting a kind of a eco-style business, and I had just come back from overseas and I was trying to juggle both. So at the time I was working as a teacher. I worked in mental health as a facilitator and a trainer. And I loved that work. I really did. It was one of those jobs I fell into. I resisted it and then fell into it. And, oh, I love it.
Oh.
But I knew the calling was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually said, like, I had this kind of dialogue with the universe or my higher self. And I was like, I actually don't know how long I can maintain doing both.
Yeah.
Like, it was long days. So I'd be like working during the day, which is a highly stressful environment.
Absolutely.
And then I would come home, literally have a nap. And then I would be on conference calls up until midnight because I was dealing with different time zones.
Yeah. Right.
And then get up and do it all again. So from the moment that I said, I don't know how long I can maintain doing both, I think it was within 24 hours. It could have been 48, but I get a phone call, someone's apologizing to me and saying, I'm so sorry to hear the news. We can help you find another job. We've got some roles going. And I was like, hang on, what?
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 What are you talking about? No.
My company hadn't even been able to get around to informing all their staff that they'd just gone bankrupt. And and it hit the news. It hit the financial news because it was a large company.
Yeah. Before it hit the employees, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So
I didn't have a choice.
I can laugh about it now, but at the time I was like, wow, ask and it's given, it's the time.
That's kind of crazy, especially time frame, right? You can't deny divine timing.
Not at all. Not at all. So I kind of knew at that point, okay, well, you're on your own. It's time.
Yeah. Wow. So that's really interesting because you're one of the few people who actually have come from, like, advertising is a skill set that any business needs, right? And so you have a unique skill set. Have you found that your previous skills have helped in your spiritual business?
It's a really interesting question. Probably, I would say no doubt. But I don't know if I would necessarily have applied anything that I learned
Yeah.
in that, because I guess it's so different. Yeah, I guess there are elements to it, but I actually don't use like the traditional marketing strategies or anything. I don't. I find that doesn't work for my business.
Uncommon. That's why I'm interested to know.
It's kind of like whatever you would do in the old paradigm, you do the opposite in the new one, kind of thing.
Right? That's really funny that you say that. I'm interested to hear your perspective on that. So because you made that transition into spiritual, now you are practicing for a long time up until that point, but what kind of like struggles or challenges did you face with having your security blanket ripped out from under you and the universe going, okay, Alisha, figure it out? What did that feel like, and how did you get through that?
I have to say, like, from then to now has been completely life-changing in every way, and it definitely hasn't been a walk in the park. There's been but a lot of learning, and I wouldn't change a thing. Where to begin? Look, I had to hit complete rock bottom a few times. Really? to bounce right back. Yeah. I don't believe that everyone has to, but people like myself who have very strong will, sometimes we have to be kind of taken down a notch.
I'm that way too. I've done it.
Yeah.
So you've been practicing your spiritual business full time for the last 3 years, though, right?
I would say, look, Cosmic Gateway is probably the product of many attempts that didn't work, and then we hit Cosmic Gateway, and then okay, away we went. So Cosmic Gateway has been operating now for about 18 months.
18 months, wow! And in that time, because I reached out to you originally because you've done an amazing job of finding your soulmate clients and creating a collection of people that follow you. You have a pretty decent following. So what if somebody was coming to you for advice in starting their own spiritual business and going through that same experience, what kind of advice would you give them, and how would you explain to them how you have been able to create your success?
Yeah, sure. I think I started it out with just kind of putting out there what I was experiencing, and I guess when Cosmic Gateway started, it was like I had the idea, like the idea was always there, but I think I was so frustrated with things not working, or working out the way I had hoped, let's say that, right. That I just kind of went, I have information that I need to share with people. So, it was really not about, the intention and focus was more about being of service than making money.
I love that. I think that's really important, because I think that the perspective or the intention we take going into any kind of business is going to be a big factor in what manifests. So I would agree that would make sense that you've done that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important element, is to go in it wholeheartedly, from a very pure place. And I think that the knocks that I talk about when I, the hitting rock bottom, I think it humbled me so that I could come from that pure place, because I think perhaps my intentions weren't as purified, let's say, as what they were after, going through those struggles. Most definitely.
It's probably to fall into, right? Because in a human 3D world, we're used to having a business, a job. So having that ripped out from under you, did that impact how you were able to come from a place of service instead of a place of fear?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's why Totally. I'm the type of person that, I guess I was very ingrained in that kind of 9 to 5, weekly, monthly paycheck or whatever, and highly dependent on that. I was a person who started working from the age of 4, the legal age. As soon as I could, I got my foot in the door, and for a good portion of my life, worked 2-3 jobs just so I could fund my lifestyle of traveling and spiritual, questing, I guess. Right. And so to go from having that security blanket to not having that, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. I didn't realize how much attachment I had to a lot of those things. So I think it was a lot of deprogramming and conditioning, unraveling. And I think I probably spent a good year going through my own process, and just having very minimal, getting by very, very I look back and I think, I don't know how I survived. But I learned a lot during that, and I think that that's a valuable thing to take forward, most definitely. Yeah.
How were you able to, because you were going through that and because you have that security blanket ripped out from under you, how were you able to build a business around being of service versus I need this to pay for my bills? How were you able to control that mindset and bring that to your business?
I think a lot of it was circumstantial. So I did have a few kind of pathways of income that could find me. And it would literally trickle through. Like I swear, like if rent was due or I needed to buy food, I would get exactly what I needed, but never anymore.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there were a lot of, miracles, like people, randomly gifting me, money or things that I needed at the time that kind of helped me move through that phase. And so I think a lot of the process was trusting that everything that you need will literally show up on your doorstep exactly when you need it and not a second before.
That's great. That's awesome. So in the 2 months that you've been pursuing Cosmic Gateway, what have you done to get your name out there to help your soulmate clients find you? What are you focusing on, I guess, is the best way to do that, as far as your form of advertisement or marketing to help find the people that need you?
Yeah, I think the way that I do it is I just write content that I'm feeling, that how I see the world. So I write from my own experience in blog posts or on the actual Facebook page itself. And the people that resonate, they resonate, and they go, yeah, that's the person I want to work with because she gets it. I'm certainly not for everyone. Everyone has their own individual path, and I think the more authentic we are in what we're putting out there, it's like a vibrational thing. People resonate with it and they just find you. Yeah,
I totally agree. I absolutely 110% agree with that. So you feel like, so what I've noticed, a lot of your stuff is more written. So you focus more in written blogging and that kind of thing, and through your Facebook. If people wanted to find you in those places, how do they find your blog?
I guess it circulates. I often, when people find me and they book a session, I quite often will say, how did you find me? Because I'm curious to know. And, I had someone recently reach out and connect with me and say, I was going through some physical symptoms that can't be diagnosed medically. I Googled them and I found your page. So I didn't even realize, I'm quite in awe of how it works, to be honest.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of very divinely orchestrated.
Right. So for listeners reaching out, though, they can find you at facebook.com/Cosmic Gateway, right? I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And then that's, so it seems like it's really organic, because you're on Facebook a lot and you reach out, and that's where I found you. So are you actually, let me ask you this, because you have an advertising background, you said as you moved into this world and this transition that you realized things that would normally work for marketing a business don't work in the spiritual business space. And I have found that to be 100% true as well, which is the whole point in this, right? Learning from people who have done it. And so what, off the top of your head, what do you feel like has worked for other businesses that just flat didn't work for you in a spiritual business?
Yeah, I think paid advertising never worked for me. I think I tried it once and it just felt wrong. And I'm like, no, but this is how you do it. No, because it's targeting through energetic compatibility, not through what you could put in a key search of audience.
That's really
yeah.
I like that perspective. So you focus more on organic traffic more than paid advertising. Is there anything that you feel like, or even bad advice you've been given that you would go, don't do it that way, do it this way?
I did listen to advice.
Okay. That's really
that's a really good question. I think really like it comes down to listening to your intuitive guidance, and so I would suggest to people to get really clear on their own intuition and their own connection to guide them to what they should do. And that's really how I did it. Like, I have a YouTube channel which is, slowly building, and I get a lot of information while I'm in my energy sessions. I'll be honest, like my team see that that's an opportunity where I'm the most connected, and then I'll get these like, do this.
Right.
And so I have to write it down because I know I'll forget afterwards. And I started doing more, reading style by the zodiac signs. I can't even say it. And I did that a couple of times about 12 months ago. And there was just something like, I was like, I'm not an astrologer. Yeah, I get that. But, and I was like, but it feels right. It's just hasn't been tweaked. And I got this epic message that you have to do readings based on soul groups. And I was like, okay, like I get that.
Yeah.
Because soul groups go through similar things at similar times. It's more of a frequency thing than you're born in this day, so
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant. And then like, how do I do that? Like, how do you want me to do that? And I was given specific instructions, like do this, do that. And I was like, all I did was, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try it and see how it works.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't matter. And I did it, and it was a hit. And so now that's my weekly guidance, insight videos that I put out once a week. And it tends to hit people, from what I've seen so far, because it's a resonance thing and they're choosing an image that they're drawn to, then that message then directly speaks to them.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool how it works.
Very. I'll have to take a peek at that. And that's on your YouTube channel?
It's on my YouTube channel, and I post the links on my Facebook page each week. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to include those links too in this video. That's killer. Which speaks to the evolution of a spiritual business, right? That's a new piece to the puzzle. I think it also speaks to your uniqueness, because that's not something somebody else is doing. There's a lot of energy healers out there, but yours is very unique, which is awesome. So,
and I guess the message there for the viewers is that, like, trust the intuition that comes to you, even if it seems so completely crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you've been given. Go and work with that, even if you have to refine it. But that's the guidance that you've been given for your own, individual business and pathway.
Right. That's great advice. I love that. Well, if you were to talk to Alisha from 10 years ago, or even 3 years ago, when she was first jumping into this, what kind of advice would you give her?
Everything's going to be all right. It's going to be okay.
Right.
It's funny because often I feel like I'm tapped into my future self, especially in the dark times. I did feel that I was being guided and comforted in the times that I needed it from myself, But I also truly believe that I don't think I could have done things any differently. I had to go through what I had to go through, and just to know that it will work out. And that vision that I held for so many years, probably since about 19, I had this greater expansive awareness of what my life purpose was. I just didn't know how to get there. And now that it is a beautiful time for me, that I can see that, forming into physical reality. And it was worth it was worth the ride.
I love that. Well, obviously you've come up against some big challenges, and you're still facing challenges today. So when things get hard, because it's never a I've made it experience from what
No, certainly not.
There's a constant journey. So as a successful spiritual business owner, what do you do when you feel like you're struggling, or you feel like you're even just tired? How do you handle that and run a successful spiritual business?
Yeah, it's really important, that downtime when things are a little bit stressful or it's going into overdrive. And I think the way that I live is that my cup has to be full first and foremost. So if I'm finding that I am going through my own process of things coming up or whatever, I will literally just shut off. I don't have to, I used to have such a need for being hyper responsive and being there for everyone else, and learned that, you just can't give when your tank's on empty, your cup's, empty. So if I do feel that need, I tend to, I never really cancel sessions. Like, I kind of know that when it's booked in, I'll have the energy to get through that, and then I can, do what I need to afterwards. But if I can feel something coming, I will just take that time out and I'll just completely disconnect, and do what I need to do, and then come back refreshed. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. No, I would absolutely agree with you that making sure you have time to take care of yourself is a priority. And a lot of us don't do that.
Yeah. It's number one. It really is number one. And I was never a person that really took the time to, self-care. It was always like, yeah, I'll do that, but I'm busy right now.
That's the same way. We're very I've learned in recent years that the universe will make you if you don't do it.
Yeah. You'll get sick. You'll have, the higher self it's so intelligent, the human body and the higher self, because if we're, trying to push harder, we'll just get slapped in the face with it, even if it's just like a cold for a few days,
Right.
be put to bed rest, because like, no, you're not meant to be doing right now. So just rest, just chill.
Take it easy.
Yeah. I guess one thing that I really do want to share, and I often share this with a lot of my clients, is that the whole money thing, and what I talk about in terms of like poverty consciousness and abundance consciousness. So, it's shifting from one to the other, and we all hold that to a degree, and we're moving out of that. And it's a big process. Well, it was for me. And I had this ingrained in me that you do more to get results. You work harder,
Yeah.
And that wasn't working for me. It just wasn't working for me. The more I pushed, the more things eluded me, and I got frustrated, until that I had to like kind of get that guidance, that, internal guidance, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I was so stressed about how I was going to pay for the next rent or whatever it was at the time.
Right.
And the message came through to me, and it said, you need to take some time off for yourself. You need to just disconnect from it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do that. No. And I remember this one day, I thought, okay, well, I had very little money. I didn't even have really enough money to put in petrol, but I was told to go to the beach. So I had to go for a drive for an hour and go to the beach. And I was like, that will take pretty much every cent I have. That doesn't make logical sense at all.
Right.
But I did it. And I put the dogs in the car. I drove down to the beach. I walked along the beach. By the time I got back into the car, I'd had a whole stack of orders come through.
Wow. That's amazing. It is really interesting to me that you used the exact verbiage, poverty consciousness, because I did a interview with a really successful astrologer a few weeks ago, and she used that exact same term. And it radiates in this community of spiritual healers and spiritual people, and that's really interesting to me that you've even said that you experienced that, and moving out of that. So you think as you get more willing to consider money as success? Or how would you, what kind of verbiage, or how would you describe your experience of transitioning out of a poverty mindset to an abundance mindset? What kind of struggles and things have you faced in that as well?
I think to put it like, to encompass it, the way that I operate and live now is from a place of I have everything that I need in every moment. And if I have it, it's because I need it. And if I don't have it, it's because I don't need it.
Yeah.
I think the new paradigm is, living from that place, and it comes down to ultimate trust, ultimate faith. And I don't think that it's about having large sums of money stashed in our bank account for a rainy day. It's about, it doesn't mean that we can't have a lot, but that has to go to something useful, not just to sit there as a security blanket. And I think that's where poverty consciousness is that as a society, we've been raised to believe that we put stuff away for a rainy day, for our retirement, for this, for that. And really, it's just about having what we need in the moment. And that's kind of how I operate and live.
Wow.
Yeah, took a while to get there. And, I still might have my little moment, but it's certainly not to the craziness that it once was. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It's just really interesting to me that that's a term that has come up a couple of times, and I believe that, and I like your perspective to live in the now. That's awesome. What other advice would you give somebody who maybe is struggling with that concept of 9 to 5 and moving into a more abundant mindset?
Yeah. I guess the transition comes when the soul has planned it. So, go gentle and easy on yourself. If you're still in a 9 to 5 and even not enjoying it, there could be a variety of different reasons why you're still there. It could be so many things. There may be still stuff for you to learn. There may be people to meet who'll be contributors to something down the line. But we can always put our best foot forward. Sorry. We can always put our best foot forward. If we're not actively doing it, we can be writing down our ideas. We can be, starting to develop them and flesh them out, and just follow our guidance as it comes through. And if that is something that you want to do, no doubt that will, materialize in the most miraculous ways as the unfolding happens. And just to be really patient in your own journey and just do little things each day that you can towards that.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I'd even like to back and kind of go full circle to your story, because you started with a reference to 8 years old putting your hands on people and healing them. So did you always know that this is the direction you were going, or was it really just that all of a sudden it went from a hobby to now I'm supposed to be doing this as a career?
No, I always knew. I did always know. I just didn't know how it was going to take shape. And there were times that I was super impatient because I just wanted it to all happen now. As a kid, I was super tapped in, putting my hands on people, healing them. I created my own tarot deck when I was about 7. Actually, they weren't tarot, it was oracle, but And I was reading for family members.
At 7?
Yeah.
So obviously you had to be introduced to it that way, that early then, right? Like, was your mom into it, or how did you find it? How does that even happen at 7?
I don't even know. I shake my head. I'm like, how did that happen? I guess children are so much more tapped in because they're less conditioned by society and the outside world. But I did have a very open family environment. Like, both my parents are very, open-minded, spiritual kind of upbringing. So I guess that helped.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. And encouraging too. So it wasn't like, oh no, that, you can't do that or that doesn't exist. It was like, Oh, really? Tell us more.
Really? That's really
um, so yeah, I think, as I got older, it maybe um, disappeared a little bit, but not a great deal. And
yeah.
I did have a very life-changing reading when I was around 19, and this lady told me, and it just resonated with me. It was like she tapped into my soul imprint, my blueprint in a way, and she told me all these amazing things. And she said, you know, you'll go through the hard yards. She was very specific too. You'll go through the hard yards, but it's for a purpose. And once you come out of those hard yards, you will teach about energy, and your work will circulate. And she said, but that won't happen until your mid 30s.
Really?
Yeah. And I always pondered on that. I like scratched my head and I thought to myself, energy. Like, I didn't fully understand energy at that point.
Yeah.
I did, but not to the degree I do now, I guess. But and I used to think, because I was thinking from the logical mind, I'm like, what could I possibly teach that hasn't already been taught? How could I be unique? How could it, um, and I guess it was around 3 years ago that I was like, oh, right. It makes more sense now.
So elaborate on that, because I think a lot of spiritual, individuals who are looking to branch into actually creating a business in this space come up against that. Well, I'm not unique, right? There's, like we've said, there's a ton of energy healers. There's a ton of tarot readers. Everybody knows somebody. So how are you able to make yourself so unique and find such a niche place in such a widely practiced place?
Mm. I think that's such an important topic, and I think it's that we all have our own individual kind of frequency or resonance, and then we bring through certain gifts and talents, and it's about refining and understanding them. And I think, even for me too, when we're trying to understand it and apply it, we're kind of looking at in the outside world, trying to go, well, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, and trying to kind of create something that has already been done, but with our own flavor, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think what for me was like, well, I wanted to do something that was uniquely my own.
Mm-hmm.
So that took a bit of like, how do I do this? And there's no roadmap for that. And, it took a while to go in and understand. But I think it's about seeking the answers from within. And I think it's about our own individual journey that creates our own market. So, what I've gone through and experienced will resonate with some and not with others. And I think it's really good to keep that in mind, that you're not going to be for everyone. You'll be for who you're meant to be for. And so it goes back to that authenticity thing. And I think by sharing openly about what your journey has entailed, you're going to attract the people who are going through that.
Yeah.
And so that you can be assistance for them. And that's kind of how I see it in a bigger perspective, is that, someone might go through a situation around, violence, or, I don't know, that just popped into my mind, but like domestic violence and, breaking away from that hasn't been my journey. So I can't relate to that, and I couldn't really be the best person to help people going through that. Yeah, I can be, and compassionate towards them and listen to them, but ultimately I'm not the most suitable person because I haven't lived that experience.
Yeah.
So, it's really about understanding your own journey and what you've learned and what you feel that the most important aspects are. And then that's when you define your target market.
I think that's brilliant, Alisha. I think that's brilliant advice. That's wonderful. So, just as a reiteration, you're saying the more you targeted who you are and the experiences that you have, the more you were able to serve. your people and your following. That's awesome. I love that. That's great advice. Some of the best advice, actually, I think I've received on this podcast. So that's killer.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, what other stories or experiences do you have that you would share with somebody who's going through this kind of transition from 9 to 5 to spiritual business owner? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I guess there's that question of like, do I just jump all in or do I do the transition?
Yeah.
I guess that's like a it is a good one. Because I was always like, I want to be the transitioner. I'm not going to like jump without a parachute.
Right.
And I had to jump without a parachute. So, you know,
So the more we fight something, the more the universe is like, okay, here's your battle.
But, you know, hindsight, looking back, you know, not that I, you know, would change anything, but if I had the opportunity to, you know, perhaps with the wisdom that I know now, maybe there would have been that possibility of transition, you know, slow transition. It wasn't meant for me. So I guess there may be a lot of people going through that transition of, you know, wanting to step out and then slowly integrate from one to the other. So if that's the path, then I would probably say, you know, just do a little bit each day, you know, and it doesn't have to be massive.
Yeah.
It could just be writing down an idea or, you know, getting creative with a logo or, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of collecting all those little elements that you need that when the time does come, if you're either pushed off without a parachute or you're going to, you know, slowly integrate, at least you're a little bit more prepared.
Yeah, a little bit. At least you feel like you are a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. That's all it really is. At least I feel like I'm more prepared.
And another thing that I think is really important is to do what it is that you love and what sings and resonates from your own heart, rather than thinking that it has to be, I've got to do it like this because that's what's been done.
Yeah.
And that's the module that works. And I guess the example that I give is like, I was looking at setting up like a more of a fair trade eco fashion jewelry business.
Okay.
Because I felt that I had to build an income and a brand before I introduced the energy component. I was going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to set something up that's very relatable in the 3D world because not everyone's ready for what I can bring on an energy level.
Yeah.
And so my idea was, okay, we create, the concept was like, we create this, maybe even a store or, you know, and then we kind of slowly integrate people, introducing them to energy and this and that. And in my mind, that was like the perfect transition.
Yeah.
No, the universe said no. And I look back now and I can laugh at myself, but it was like, no, I had to do the energy stuff first for everything else to come in, you know. So I had to do what my calling was and then allow the other facets to come in. Like I had to have my heart fully engaged, and even though I was passionate about the other things, my heart perhaps wasn't fully engaged in really helping transform people's lives.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really interesting. So you can speak to a logical perspective, trying to talk your way into doing it from your old advertising perspective. This makes sense, but really that wasn't the path. That's interesting that you took that direction.
Yeah,
it's do that. Just listen to your heart and follow what you're supposed to be doing.
Pretty much. And, you know, going back to what I said before is what you think, like what the old paradigm says, this is what you should do the complete opposite. That's what's worked for me.
That's awesome. Which actually does bring up another question. So you made oracle cards when you were 7, and you started putting your hands on people by 8. So what was it about energy healing specifically? Because you've said that you've tapped into a couple of different different tools and resources. So how did you know it was energy healing versus maybe card readings or anything like that?
That's a really great question. I think when I tapped into doing readings, like I started very young, and it was something I could do quite naturally. And I wasn't fulfilled by that.
Gotcha.
Even though it came really easily to me and I was good at it, I felt like I could help people better, not by telling them their future or giving them advice, is that I actually wanted to give them the tools that they could help transform their own life. I felt that for me, and look, readings are great and they're very useful and helpful, no doubt. But I think that true self-mastery comes from being able to tap into your own knowledge and wisdom. And it's empowering to be able to do that. And I think that when we give our power away, through readings and things like that, because we want to know the answers, there's an element that we're kind of giving our power away. And so I think from the healing, the energy work that I do, that was an easier way for me to help support people to do that, rather than to be the information provider, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense, because your focus is to help heal and push people forward, right?
Yeah.
That's really unique. I love that. That's so awesome. Well, so how big is, because so I'm in America, right? We're in the States. How is it socially for you in Australia for being a spiritual business owner? Does it feel like a lot of people are still weirded out by it, or is it a little bit more socially acceptable? How does that community feel?
Interesting. Look, where I actually live is a very, very open kind of spiritual community. So it's kind of the norm in where I live specifically. Probably I would compare it to Sedona, not on such a large scale, but it's kind of like that vibe. In my world, the people that I interact, it's not really, I don't really have those awkward conversations anymore, because those people just aren't in my frequency. Like, I'm not interacting. But yeah, look, in the transition, it was a little bit, I have to go back a few years and, and kind of laugh about it, because you do get all sorts of like, reactions and responses from people who don't. And I think how I dealt with that was like, I'm good at reading people, so I can kind of read where they're at, so I know what to say and what not to say. And I just kind of, it's about choosing your audience, I guess. And if you know that someone's not really into it, then that's okay. That's exactly where they're at. And if you feel guided to plant seeds, do that. Plant a very subtle, beautiful seed that one day will blossom and grow. But it's not about forcing it. And that's where I think a lot of the resistance might come from other people, that it, contradicts with their belief systems. Because it's just, all it comes down to is a lack of knowledge and understanding, because there's so much skewed perception that it's like voodoo, or it's witchcraft, or it's like whatever. I don't know. I don't even know. But yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. Do you find that, so are you providing your services through internet like this, like through a Zoom call?
Yes.
Or are you? So do you have clients that are mostly in your area, or do you branch out? How far is your reach?
I would say 95% of my clients are not in my country.
Really?
So yeah. So I do, the bulk of my work is via distance, remotely. So it started off with more face-to-face, and then I kind of transitioned about a year ago to, online. And I guess it's a wider reach to the more specific market. So yeah, most of my clients reach across the US, Canada, Europe. Well, I think I stretch almost all continents now. So yeah.
Really? That's really cool. So what was it that made you transition? Because now you said 95% of your business is probably in a different country. So that's a pretty big transition in the last short amount of time. So what was it that made you make that choice, or what was it that pushed you in that direction?
I think because my experience and what I was going through was quite unique, and I realized that my audience for now was going to be quite niche.
Yeah.
And very strategically so. I feel that a lot of the people who are going through similar experiences are very strategically placed across the globe. We're not meant to be in close proximity for a reason. Right. So I guess I had to kind of, in a way, build my own confidence that I could do something that I know that's working, but everyone's energy sensitivity is different. So for some people, when I connect with them, they could feel every ounce of the whole session, and for other people, it's not as intense. So I had to kind of work out a way that was going to be equally beneficial for both people, if that makes sense. And it was a bit of trial and error. Like, I tried a few ways and I thought, no, that's not going to work. I have to go back to the drawing board. And I think I've got it for now. It works well. And how I do that is I give extensive notes, and I generally provide them with either a recorded audio that I use. I use a lot of audios, or we go through different techniques, or I give homework.
Yeah. That's really cool. So do you use Zoom, or do you use a different platform?
Yeah, Zoom, Skype, Messenger, WhatsApp. It's like, I'm really flexible. I'm like, whatever's going to be easiest for you, we'll work with that.
You're open to working with it. That's awesome. And you don't feel like doing your sessions over the internet has, obviously if the majority of your clients are being handled that way, there's not a lack of connection or capability to serve by doing it over the internet.
No, that's the beautiful thing about working with energy. It doesn't, I mean, if it was like, if I was a reflexologist, there might be some issues there,
Well, that's a really interesting topic, actually. Because obviously you're able to help people over the internet. How do you think that's changed how spiritual businesses are being operated? Do you think that more people should serve that way, or what are your thoughts on that?
Massively. I think it's changed in a really positive way, because it gives more people finding the right people for them, not limited by their location. It's given people like myself the flexibility that I can work wherever I want to, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, for the client, they can be in the comfort of their own home.
I agree with that. I just had an energy session done via Zoom the other day, and there is a comfort to sitting in your own living room.
Yeah. And, they can choose if they want a video or just audio.
Yeah.
I don't get glammed up like I am right now. I save that for special occasion. But
well, thanks. Well, you're stunning either way. I've seen pictures of both. You're absolutely beautiful.
I joke with them when they see me and not, and I'm like, well, you didn't book the session for my good look, so let's just get down to business.
You're fantastic, Alisha. I love that. Well, what kind of challenges have you faced taking your spiritual business online? Have you faced anything specific to
that? The time zone thing.
Really? For the people listening, we totally faced that. That one was on me.
That took a while to get my head around. It freaked me out in the beginning.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I was like, how do I do this? Because for me, I'm not coordinating just one different time zone. I'm coordinating across all, and it's sort of like, but now I've got it down pat because I kind of roughly know the rough time zones, so I know that it's going to have to be my morning and their night, or vice versa. So I have a rough, idea. But that was definitely, and I looked at doing like the online scheduling. That would have been streamlined. It's so easy. Like I wouldn't even have to think about anything. But something didn't sit right with me, so I chose not to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
but I think very effective for a lot of people.
Yeah, I can see that. I use that actually in some of my stuff, but not all of it, depending on when it makes sense and when it doesn't. So I can see that. That's really interesting. So time zone's the biggest challenge when working a worldwide business. That makes sense. So is there any massive changes or benefits that you've seen from taking your business online?
Challenges, not really. Yeah, just down to the time zone thing. I'm looking at now moving a little bit out of one-on-one sessions and doing more group work and teaching in classes next year, which is very exciting. And I feel that that's the next logical step, because it kind of I'm then able to reach more people that way.
Yeah.
And it's making it more efficient for my time too. So that, again, the time zone thing, because I'm looking at a class of maybe maximum 8 people who probably all in different time zones. So I'm still trying to get my head around that.
How to make that work. Hey!
Hi.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened.
Well, I guess that answers the other part of the question, is the technology itself.
Right? I didn't even think of that because we've run into that as a thing. So obviously,
Yeah.
just the need for patience. But how do you handle that when you're trying to provide something for a client and it shuts off?
It hasn't happened a lot, but it does happen, and I guess it's just that ability to think on your feet. The times that, my internet literally just dropped out and reconnected, but there have been times where the internet has completely, for whatever reason, just wouldn't work. And it was lucky that they were more of they were based in Australia, so I could do an actual phone call with them.
Oh, right.
I didn't have to rely on internet, but obviously that just wouldn't work.
Yeah, not
if
if
it's
calling
out.
the office or
Yeah, no. But honestly, it's like going back to that trusting thing. And sometimes, like, when things drop out, there is a reason for that.
yeah.
And, just maybe means it's not the right time. It has to be rescheduled. And I think it's a matter of just really going with the flow and trusting it rather than forcing things. So, yeah.
I think that's great advice. I think that's probably advice for me. There might be listeners that needed to hear it, but that one was for me. Oh, Alisha, you've been absolutely awesome. I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you for spending it with me. This has been great.
Thank you. Likewise, it's been absolutely amazing conversation, and you have got some great questions, and it's been really enjoyable.
Thank you. Well, you've been nothing but a blessing. So thank you for being my friend.
Yay!
Man, I love her. Alisha, it was such a ball to sit down with and just talk about some incredible insight. Now, since our interview, Alisha has launched multiple group web classes and various other tools and resources to assist any of us on our path to spiritual enlightenment. So, to connect with her, you can find her on Facebook or visit her website, cosmicgateway.com. That's cosmic, the number 8, way.com. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you right back here in the same place next week. Thank you for tuning in to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. And if you'd like me to teach you 7 of the most powerful marketing strategies for spiritual business owners in 2019 free, then just go to 5dmarketingsecrets.com and simply download the full report. See you next time.